Salutations, pups, and welcome to Chapter 12 of The One They Call Broccoli by Texiliaz. As always, the link to the fic will be in the description below. And with that out of the way, let's get on into it. Chapter 12. Welcome to UA! Chapter Summary. Finally! Izuku is an official student at UA High. Just what is going to happen during his first day in school? Author's notes. Hello everyone! Sorry for the delay. Been trying to write and update all of my stories, but it's been hard keeping up. This chapter was originally twice as long, but once I reached 8,000 words, I decided it was too much and cut it in half. Or more like kinda half. This half is shorter than the second half, but that hopefully means the next chapter should be up by the weekend. Anyway, hope you enjoy this chapter. Trigger warning. Mineta. Izuku's point of view. The day arrived where Izuku would finally be an official UA Hero Course student. Sure, he had technically been a student here for months, since he had been studying under Nezu and all, but he had not been in the Hero Course before. He honestly couldn't believe that this was actually happening. It felt like a dream come true. While Izuku walked through the halls, he couldn't help but skip a few steps, happy to be able to wear his new shoes safely without being scared of anyone destroying them. After all, this was a new start for him. If anyone asked, Izuku could say with pride that he had a quirk, and even if they pointed out the brightly red shoes, he could just blame it on them being the only ones that fit, like the other teen had. He was free from being a useless Deku ever again. Or, at least, that was what he thought, until he opened the classroom door and saw Kachan, who was already picking a fight with their fellow classmate. Great, Izuku thought, suppressing a sigh. Guess that nickname won't be going away anytime soon. The Vestiges agreed, making their clear distaste for the blonde known inside of Izuku's mind. His day continued to go from good to sour to worse after Aizawa-sensei arrived and told them they would do a quirk assessment test. And Izuku understood why they would do it. He knew it only made sense to test everyone's current limit with their quirks. But still, for him, it felt like a slap to the face, because although his training with One For All was moving forward, it was doing so at a snail's pace. After 2 weeks of training to control the quirk, Izuku could still barely move a muscle while in his full cowl mode. And trying to use One For All in a single limb only ended with him just almost exploding his bones. Which led to Aizawa, All Might, and the Vestiges strictly telling him not to use One For All until he, under Aizawa's supervision, could use it without risk of hurting himself. And again, he understood why they told him that. But it sucked, because he had finally gotten a quirk suitable for heroics, and instead of using it, he had gotten banned from even so much as activating it. Not to mention the other quirks had yet to show themselves. Well, except for Danger Sense, which had proven to be quite useful while avoiding bullies at his old school. But it wasn't useful here. Getting a migraine was kind of not going to help him run faster or jump farther. And for not the first time, Izuku couldn't help but feel useless. The Vestiges kept trying to cheer him on, and they kept telling Izuku that he was doing fine. They were pointing out how his overall score was above at least 2 others, and reminded him that even if he got last place, Shota would never expel him. But with every test, Izuku kept growing more and more frustrated. Everyone else was using their incredible and amazing quirks, and here he was, having multiple ones but unable to use any of them. Useless. When it was time for the ball throw, Izuku felt completely on edge. He knew he was currently close to last place, and he felt like such a failure. The itch to prove himself was starting to grow too strong to ignore, and he felt himself getting panic at the idea of Shota regretting his decision of wasting his time on him. What if Shota changed his mind about not expelling me? Or what if he lied? That thought had Izuku's stomach twisting into knots, and he felt like throwing up from how anxious he was feeling. It was at that moment that Nana appeared in her transparent form, looking at him in sympathy and worry. "You're doing fine, kiddo," she told him. "Shota believes in you, and so do we. Don't worry about all that, or on everyone else, and just focus on yourself." Despite Nana's advice, Izuku turned his gaze away from her and over to his teacher, who was watching him with what others would probably call a bored expression. But Izuku saw that Shota was frustrated. He noticed the way the man's brows were furrowed, and saw how tense his jaw was. And immediately, Izuku turned away and ducked his head, gripping the ball tightly. "He's disappointed in me," he muttered quietly, feeling his chest ache with his ever-growing panic. Nana sighed next to him. "Izuku, sweetie, no, he's not. He's just worried you're gonna get hurt again. You're doing fine, kiddo. Just keep doing your best, alright?" Izuku gritted his teeth and gripped the ball tighter. He felt frustrated tears welling up in his eyes. Because what the hell was the point of doing his best if it wasn't even his best at all? Izuku was certain he could do so much more, so much better if he just tried. So, steeling himself and ignoring the Vestige's frantic warnings, Izuku called on One For All into his arm and got ready to throw. The last thing he saw was Nana's panicked expression next to him, before nothing. Izuku blinked. He recognized this. Aizawa had erased his quirk, but for some reason, unlike every other time, he didn't give it back. His mind felt blank and empty and wrong, and he couldn't breathe, he couldn't think, and he's all alone. Aizawa-sensei was saying something while still erasing his quirk, but Izuku didn't hear him through the ringing in his own ears. The boy turned to his teacher with wide, panicked eyes. "Give them back! Please!" he cried out, clutching his chest and head desperately. Aizawa's eyes widened slightly before the words seemed to register, and the man quickly deactivated his quirk and let One For All come back to Izuku. Immediately, Izuku was flooded with reassurance from the Vestiges, Nana appearing next to his side once again and petting his back. "It's okay, Izuku. We never left. We're all here." "Ria, Midoriya." Aizawa's voice cut through the sound of the Vestiges, and Izuku flinched. He took a shuddering breath and looked back up at his teacher, who was looking at him in concern, as well as the rest of the class. "So much for a new start. Now I probably look like a pathetic freak." I'm fine, Aizawa-sensei. Sorry. Just got a bit scared of how quiet it got," he stammered, giving his teacher a shaky smile. For another moment, his teacher just kept staring at him. But then, the man gave him a slow nod. "Alright then. You'll get one more shot at the ball's throw. And don't destroy your body. Remember why Nezu took a liking to you in the first place," the man said, giving Izuku a pointed look. Izuku flinched and muttered out a "yes, sir," before turning to look at the ball in his hand. Then, Izuku got an idea and he glanced up at his teacher. "Just to make sure, as long as I stand in the circle, anything is allowed?" he asked carefully. Aizawa-sensei nodded. That was all the confirmation Izuku needed before he felt his lips tug up and smile. He had a few ideas that might work. Izuku looked back over to his classmates, his eyes trailing over them, before his eyes locked with Uraraka, who he had kind of befriended after their shared traumatic experience at the entrance exam. "Hey, Uraraka? Could you come over here, please?" he asked, smiling nervously at his confused-looking classmates. Shota's point of view. Shota felt like slapping himself. He had known Midoriya for months now, and he knew the boy had panic attacks, and yet he hadn't thought twice when he activated his quirk and kept it active. He hadn't expected that panic attack. And for that, Shota felt awful and stupid. Because in hindsight, it should have been obvious. From what Shota could tell, Midoriya seemed to have quickly grown close to the past users of their quirk. They seemed to have become an anchor of sorts for him, and Shota had noticed a major improvement in Midoriya's mental health with each passing day. So of course the kid would panic when that support suddenly got ripped away from him. The only question was why he had never said anything during training. This was far from the first time Shota had used his quirk on the boy, even though those times only lasted for a second or so. But still, why didn't the boy tell him how anxious it made him? Then Shota would have made sure to never use it longer than absolutely necessary. Sadly, the answer to that was obvious. It was probably because Midoriya, quite simply, was a self-sacrificing problem child. Shota curiously watched while Midoriya asked Uraraka to come over to the circle. The girl seemed confused at first, but after glancing at Shota, who didn't do anything to stop them, she hesitantly walked over to Midoriya. Midoriya then whispered something to her, and then they both grinned excitedly, looking like two problem children that were gonna give Shota a lot of headaches for the next 3 years. The next thing Shota knew, Uraraka had used her quirk on the ball, and Midoriya effortlessly launched it into space, earning him an infinity score, just like Uraraka. And Shota was so damn proud. Izuku's point of view. After the ball disappeared into space, Izuku turned and grinned at Uraraka, giving her a high five, which, in hindsight, was a bad idea. Luckily, he only floated for about 1 second before she realized what had happened and cancelled her quirk. Izuku easily landed on his feet, and they both laughed. He honestly couldn't remember ever laughing together with a classmate like this. It felt nice. But then reality crashed down, and he heard the rest of the class complain and call what he did cheating, and Izuku immediately felt his heart drop down to his stomach. He was just using someone else's quirks. How is that allowed? Agreed, that is not very heroic at all. That can't count as him getting points, right? He was cheating! Beside him, Uraraka gave him an almost guilty look, and he shot her a shaky smile. Enough, Aizawa growled, activating his quirk against the clung of students, that luckily Izuku was not standing near, effectively shutting them up. Teamwork is essential in heroics, so knowing your own limits, when to ask for help, as well as how to lend a helping hand to others, are all very important traits for a hero to have. If you can't step off your pedestal and work with others, then you are not fit to save anyone, Aizawa told them all sternly. But even so, to not take the test seriously and instead rely on his classmate to give them free points can't possibly, Ida tried to argue, but was cut off by Aizawa glaring at him. Do I need to remind you all that Midoriya asked me, your teacher, for confirmation before he did anything? Nothing Midoriya just did was cheating. Both him and Uraraka show great potential if they can already cooperate this well. So instead of throwing out false accusations, you should instead watch and take notes. At the end of Aizawa's speech, the class glanced over at Uraraka and him. With every word coming from the older man's mouth, Izuku felt more and more like just disappearing through the ground, and he hunched into himself. Kachan especially was glaring daggers at Izuku, but just like the last time they spoke all those weeks ago, Danger Sense was being quiet, and that made Izuku relax just a little, knowing none of them would at least try and hurt him. Luckily, they quickly moved along after that, and the test after that was the flexibility test, where they were supposed to try and reach their toes while sitting down, which, honestly, just seemed way too easy to be considered a real test. Unlike the ball throw, they went up to the mats 4 at a time, and Zuko shuffled over to one of the mats at the edge, away from the others. Then, at the mark, he reached forward until his fingers reached his toes. But he started growing nervous, because surely this couldn't be it, right? The others had seemed to be struggling, and like it hurt, but Izuku didn't feel any stretch whatsoever. So, with a frown, he stretched further, effectively folding himself in half. He heard a couple gasps around him, which made him glance up to see most of the others staring at him. Izuku blushed at all the attention and ducked his head again, wondering why they were staring. Whoa, kid, how are you not breaking? Guess you really are a cat, huh? Izuku frowned slightly, counting the seconds in his head. Just a few more seconds. What do you mean? He whispered, barely loud enough to hear it himself. But before the vestiges could answer, Aizawa called the next group up, and so Izuku got to his feet. He noticed the other three groaning and grimacing, and he turned and gave them worried looks. Did I do it wrong? I mean, is it supposed to hurt? As if being able to read his mind, Nana appeared next to him and chuckled. Nah, kid, you did it right, and you did it more than perfectly. I'm sure this will move you up a few spots. Izuku ducked his head at that, not really believing that at all. It wasn't anything special, he muttered, keeping his head low and standing off to the side. But it was still a test, and you absolutely nailed it. Don't sell yourself short, Shorty. I'm still growing, Izuku grumbled, crossing his arms with a pout. The vestiges just laughed in his head. Too lost in his own head, Izuku didn't notice the girl with dark short hair, nor the boy with several appendages glancing at him. The results came up on the screen, and, just like the vestiges had said, Izuku ended up several places above last place, no doubt thanks to the infinity point he got from Uraraka and his highest score on the flexibility test. But Izuku barely had a moment to feel happy because he heard a sob break out a few feet away from him, and he looked towards Hagakure, who came in last place. He swallowed and glanced at their teacher in worry. Izuku knew about Shota expelling students seemingly left and right, but he knew that Shota only did so if the student was completely hopeless. Surely he wouldn't expel someone like Hagakure for coming in last in this test when her quirk was so valuable in so many ways? And thankfully, he didn't. Instead, he had told the students that it was a logical ruse. At that point, among the screams of some students, Izuku had just started laughing. He just couldn't help it. It was just such a Shota thing to say. Shota's point of view. Shota, to everyone's disbelief, didn't actually enjoy expelling his students. It was just what he did when someone was deemed with zero potential and would be a danger to either others and themselves. So, even though Hagakure came in last, it would be stupid of Shota to expel her when the girl still showed so much potential, both with her quirk and her drive. So no, Shota did not expel her. That didn't mean everyone else was safe, though. Among his students, one of them was already walking on thin ice. Not because of their quirk or power, but because of their garbage personality that grated on Shota's nerves. Again, don't get him wrong. These students are still young and have plenty of room and time to grow. Like Bakugo, who had clear as day anger issues and an inferiority complex. Those could be fixed. But sometimes, some of them are just beyond saving. And that is why, when Shota saw the little shit groping one of the female general course students in the middle of the hallway, he knew this was one of those cases. Immediately, Shota wrapped the boy up in his capture weapon and dragged him away from the girl. The student turned towards him and thanked him profusely, her face red and tears shining in her eyes. Shota just waved her off. Let the staff know if anyone tries anything like that again. That level of inappropriate behavior is unacceptable at UA, he said, turning to the brat he had captured when he finished speaking. The girl bowed before rushing away, leaving Shota alone with his student. You have 1 minute to convince me not to expel you. Go, Shota said, releasing his grip he had around the boy's mouth so he could speak. Mineta sputtered and looked at Shota like the man was insane. What? Expel me? But I didn't even do anything! The boy cried. Shota crossed his arms and raised an unimpressed eyebrow. 40 seconds, he counted. The boy paled and backtracked. I didn't do anything bad. Girls always fall for heroes and should be happy when we touch them. It's our right as heroes. Surely you get that, right? Being a man yourself. I'm gay. Should cut him off. His mood turning more and more sour with every word coming out of this little shit's mouth. 10 seconds. Mano pulled a face. You can't be serious. I made it through your stupid test. You can't just... Time's up, and you're out. Time's up, and you're out. go report this to the principal's office and then leave. If you're not off the school grounds in 1 hour, I will call security and you will be escorted out." "What? No! That's so unfair! I get expelled just for that girl?" the boy cried out, clearly missing the point. Zero potential, indeed. "No, not just for that girl. I'm expelling you for every other girl you might run into while pretending to be a hero," Shota told him sternly, and sadly, but not unsurprisingly, the brat didn't seem to understand at all, pulling a face. "Now, if I were you," Shota continued, "I would start thinking about your behavior and what to say to Nezu. If you behave, he might even agree to not ban you from every hero course in the country. But I doubt it, since he saw the whole thing, including our conversation. Now, get out of my sight." And with that, Shota walked away and continued towards his classroom, ignoring the wailing of the brat behind him. As soon as he opened the door and saw the rest of his remaining students were already there, he started speaking. "Mineta Minoru has been expelled for inappropriate behavior," he told them, walking up to the podium. A few shocked gasps could be heard, but other than that, the class grew quiet, all eyes turning to look at Shota. "Let this be a reminder to show each other respect. You are here to learn how to be heroes. The absolute bare minimum for that is to be a decent person. Which means that if I ever catch one of you in any way or form assaulting another person, you are out. Are we clear?" A chorus of terrified "Yes, senseis," echoed throughout the classroom, most students looking really nervous. Good. They should take it seriously, he thought, happy to already have this level of respect from them. Shota also noticed some of the female students relaxing a little. Even though this class hadn't been here for long, it was clear that the boy had already made them feel uncomfortable and unsafe, which never should have happened in the first place. But hopefully they will be able to feel safer now with Mineta gone. And maybe someone else more worthy could take his space. So no, Shota did not enjoy expelling his students. But sometimes, it also felt really satisfying to take out the trash. Author's notes. Bye-bye, great douche! That was satisfying to write, lol. Hope you enjoyed reading it too. Like I mentioned, the next chapter is mostly finished and should be up by the weekend at the latest. It will be a bit of a heavy chapter, and Azu will finally get some therapy. Hope you'll look forward to it. Thank you all for all the lovely comments and support. Hope you have a lovely day or night. Take care. And that's it for chapter 12. And I sincerely want to apologize for laughing. Even though I have a lisp, I can't fake a lisp. And the Mineta accent, I tried, it was so funny to me, I couldn't help laughing. I actually had to, you notice when I resaid that line, I had to pause the recording so I could laugh my ass off and then re-record it. So I'm so sorry. I do not in any way condone sexual assault. That is not okay. It is not okay to sexually assault someone, and I do not support that at all. Just me trying to make Mineta's voice, because all I can really, I can't even do it. It makes me laugh so much. I'm just so glad he's not in this story, so that I don't have to do him, because I can't do him. I hope you guys got as much of a laugh out of that as I did. Please leave your comments. They make me so happy. And I will see you tomorrow. Show the author Texiliaz some love. See you tomorrow. Bye, pups!